Meow. Catnip Assassins, Book 1. Written by Skye MacKinnon. Narrated by Muzljakovich. Prologue. The kitten is staring at me as if I'm either a funny new toy or prey that needs killing. Maybe a little bit of both. He meows loudly, challenging me. I meow back, 100 times louder. He looks at me in shock, then runs off, his fur ruffled in fear. "Sorry, little one," I whisper. "I don't need any witnesses tonight." I continue my walk along the rooftops, as silently as the kitten that I can still feel at the back of my mind. He's watching me from afar, probably wondering what the hell is going on. I'm a threat to his territory, yet he hasn't quite mustered the courage to confront me. Good. I really don't want to be distracted tonight. I jump from one roof to the next, occasionally stopping to make sure I'm on the right track. It's much harder to orient yourself when you're on rooftops without the help of street signs and landmarks. My sense of direction is good, but I don't always trust it. That's what they taught me. Never trust anyone, not even what your mind tells you. Not what you hear, not what you see. The world is nothing but lies knitted together into a fabric that looks as if it's real. When I reach a rooftop so old and dilapidated that even I can't help but summon a creaking sound from the broken tiles, I stop in my tracks, carefully crouching, ready to jump. I don't have much information on my mark, not nearly as much as I'd like. I don't know how strong they are, and more importantly, how paranoid. Most people in this town suffer from some kind of paranoia, but some have it worse than others. Last week's first ever witch hunt in centuries is proof of that. Poor bugger. When there's no sound from the house below, I continue on towards the dormer window. It's got an old wooden frame that looks like it's the mother of all splinters. Not going to touch that without gloves. I take a cursory peek over the edge of the garret. No light. Good. I grip the edge of the roof, pushing down on it a few times. It seems to be stable enough to hold me. Let's hope so, anyway. Holding on to the edge with just my fingers, I let myself drop down until I'm dangling right in front of the window. According to the information I was given, this is just an attic used for storage. It should be empty. I swing back and stretch my legs out in front of me, kicking in the window as I swing forward. It's so old that it barely offers any resistance. I could have probably just pushed it in with my hands. I drop to the floor, freezing in motion, listening to whatever's happening in the house. There's nothing but silence. He's either sleeping or not in. I hope for the former. I dread coming all the way here again. This house is at the opposite end of town from where I live. I try to avoid staying out in the open for too long. I've lost count of how many bounties there are on my head, but it was about a dozen last I checked. It fills me with pride, in a sick sort of way. People out there are scared of me. They better be. Fear is an excellent protection. If people fear you, they're less likely to try and attack you. I stay in the same crouched position for another few minutes, but when there's still no sound, I get to my feet and take a torch from my backpack. I do a quick sweep of the room. Besides a few dusty cardboard boxes, it's empty, just like I was told. Judging from the thick layer of dust on the floor, nobody has been up here in weeks. It's quite a pretty space, actually. With a bit of cleaning, this would make a lovely attic room. The wooden beams reaching through the floor up to the very top would be perfect to tie a hammock between. So much better than the hole I currently call my home. A noise down below startles me, but my training kicks in enough to keep me from jumping. I stay where I am, feet rooted to the floor, not making a sound. There are footsteps, slow and heavy, more of a shuffling rather than walking. I wasn't told the age of my mark, but judging from this sound alone, I'd guess someone old. Those are the easiest. Not just in terms of the job, but also by being easiest on my conscience. Old people die anyway. They don't have much life left for me to steal. Less guilt to live with. I stay in my position, not daring to do any movement at all, until the sound of the toilet flushing and more shuffling announce that he's back in his bedroom. Time to act before I get covered in dust like the rest of this room. Carefully, I move towards the trap door. Compared to the rest of the house, it's somewhat modern with shiny metal hinges that look like they won't squeak too much. I work in slow motion, gently opening the trap door and lowering the ladder. The slower I move, the less likely I am to make a sound. By the time I step off the last rung, I'm bored. I much prefer a quick and easy backstreet assassination over creeping through someone's house. Not only does it take forever, but it also shows me a kind of life that I've never had and never will have. Paintings on the wall, photographs in dusty frames, a rug frayed at the edges, turned dark by time, and too many footsteps. At the end of the corridor is a sorry-looking houseplant in a pot too large for it. I bet it's not been watered for weeks. Maybe, once I've killed its owner, I'm going to give it some water. Call it part of the service. I tiptoe along the hallway towards the sound of gentle snoring. The direction fits with the mental map I've built of the house while I listen to the owner's trip to the toilet. The door on my right will lead to his bedroom. I pull my knives from the scabbard secured to my belt. I only oiled them yesterday, so they don't make a sound as I ready my weapons of choice. Both have been dipped in poison, making this a much subtler method than just stabbing people. A simple nick with my blade, and they'll be dead half an hour later. It's more personal than using darts like some of my colleagues. No, let's not call them that. Compatriots. Miserable sods trapped in the same life I am. I take a deep but soundless breath and push open the door. It's almost completely dark, but my eyes adjust quickly, already used to the dim light from the corridor. There's a figure lying on the bed, covered by several blankets. That man must be really cold. It's late spring, and by now, one duvet should suffice. I carefully approach the bed from the left, my blades at the ready. Maybe I should just use the poison today. Let him drift off into death during his sleep. Much nicer, and definitely much less bloody than cutting his throat. His bedsheets are of high quality, and I'd hate to ruin them. Maybe he has some heirs who'd like to inherit them without bloodstains. Putting one of the blades back into its scabbard, I pull a tiny needle from a hidden pocket sewn into the collar of my shirt. Much less impressive than my knives, but let's not be too violent today. The carnage I left behind at yesterday's mark made up for that. I reach over to prick the man, and notice my mistake. The snoring has stopped, and it must have been gone ever since I entered the room. The man in front of me is not breathing. "Not very bright, are you?" I whirl around, ready to throw my blade at the man whose voice is coming from a dark corner of the room. A room I hadn't checked for traps. Big mistake. Without taking my eyes off the shadows he's hiding in, I shake the man behind me. He's too light. It's not actually a body. Ugh. Please tell me I didn't just fall for the pillows beneath the blanket trick. I really deserve to be caught. Too busy getting distracted by pot plants and rugs. "Who are you?" I challenge him, my voice as sharp as I can make it. Let's not show any insecurity or fear. "I was told they'd send one of their best." He mutters as if to himself. "I'm not convinced that's you." "You're my mark?" He steps out of the shadows and I let my needle drop, pulling my second knife instead. Even in the dim light, it's clear that the man really is old, but that doesn't stop him from moving in a strange, fluid way that reminds me of a predator stalking his prey. The shuffling walk to the bathroom must have been an act.
"You took your time,"
he says instead of an answer.
"Although, I guess that's a good sign. Sometimes patience is more important than intelligence."
He seems intent on insulting me, but I don't react to his provocation. I'm practiced in not listening to what other people say to me. "What do you want?" I ask. Somehow it's clear to me that he's not here to kill his assassin. He could have done that as soon as I walked through the door, jumped me from behind, slit my throat, or banged a pan against my head. Whatever he fancied.
I have a proposition for you,
he replies calmly.
You're not as good as I expected, but I suppose you'll have to do. How would you like to become self-employed?
I chuckle humorlessly. No chance in hell. Not because I don't want to, but because I can't. I'm not going to tell him that. Never give away your weaknesses.
Because of the collar around your neck?
He asks. My mind takes a stumble. How did he know? Nobody does. Instinctively, my hand flies to my throat, checking if my scarf is still in place. It is. He shouldn't be able to see the collar. How? I ask, knowing that I'll know exactly what I mean. He chuckles.
Trade secret. But here's the deal. I remove the collar. You start your own agency. I'll occasionally give you marks, but otherwise, you're independent. I might even throw in a cash injection to start you off.
I want to gape and throw 1,000 questions at him, but I keep my expression neutral. What do you get out of it? He laughs again.
I've been wanting to leave this city for a while. Let's pretend you killed me. I get peace and quiet. You can have the house and my existing contact lists. That should help you get things running.
Confusion is slowing my brain down. He wants me to start my own assassin business, take my collar, give me his house. This has to be a test. Prove it, I challenge him. Prove you can get rid of this thing. I rip my scarf off my neck, exposing the bronze collar around my throat. I've grown used to the tightness of it, the way it's almost painful when I swallow. The few times when I was without one, back when I was still growing and needed to be fitted a new one every year or so, I felt almost naked without it. It's become part of me, part of my identity. We all have them. Everyone in the pack.
I'll need to come closer, he warns me. And what do you think about some light?
He flicks the light switch before I can say something, and the lamp above me flickers on. It's a dim, energy-saving one that will take a moment to get to full brightness. I'm glad. It makes it easier on my eyes. Finally, I get to see my mark. He's surprisingly tall with a black top hat on his white hair. A well-manicured beard hides his angular chin, but it doesn't distract from the deep scars lining both of his cheekbones. If they weren't there, he'd look like a gentleman, an academic perhaps, who spends most of his life behind a desk or surrounded by books. Those scars, though, tell a different story. Who are you? I ask, repeating my question before suspicion makes its way through my confusion. Did you put a mark on yourself to get me here?
Good,
is all he says as he walks towards me. I fight my instincts to flinch and run away, staying rooted in my spot instead. I'm too curious for my own good. Letting someone as dangerous as him close to me is never a good idea. But here I am, unmoving as he lifts his right hand to my neck while his left disappears in his jacket pocket. Curiosity killed the cat. They'd put that on my gravestone if anyone bothered to bury me, which is unlikely. I'll probably end up a corpse floating in a river or thrown into one of those big communal rubbish bins. A fitting end to a life that's consisted of not much else besides killing and thieving. I pull the collar of my shirt out of the way as he gently runs his fingers over the collar.
They've progressed a bit since I last saw them, but it's simple enough. Don't move. This won't take long.
He closes his eyes. This would be the perfect moment to take him out. Do what I'm supposed to do and return home. Pick up breakfast, and then nap for a bit. But no, I'm stupid and curious. If there's a chance he can rid me of the collar that's determined my life until this very point, it's worth the risk. People before me have tried to take off the collars. All of them have failed. I don't know why I even believe this man. It's likely just a trick. I already fell for his illusions once. The first time was an accident, a moment of absent-mindedness. The second is plain stupidity and recklessness. Well, I never said I was clever.
It's going to open in a moment,
the man mutters.
Steel yourself. This may be overwhelming.
He doesn't give me any time to prepare. The collar springs open with a strange crunching sound, and I suck in a deep breath, staggering back. My heartbeat is growing faster, and I can feel the hairs on my skin stand up. A growl comes from my throat.
Easy there,
the man says soothingly.
You can keep control. You're strong.
Tears prick my eyes when pain shoots through my fingertips. I don't need to look down to know that my claws have just broken through my skin. I blink rapidly, the colors of the room changing whenever I blink, alternating between the bright room and blurry, washed-out shapes. Like a painter ran a sponge over his artwork to soak up parts of the colors in the clear lines.
You're in control.
My ears flick toward the man's voice. He's louder now, and I can hear nuances in his tone that weren't there before. Memories flood my mind. I've experienced this before. Long ago, before the collar was fixed around my neck. Running through long grass, so many scents, the sounds of insects as loud as traffic noise. My paws soft on the ground, my claws. Control. I take another deep breath and focus on that thought. Control. I'm in control, not the animal, not the beast hiding inside of me. Slowly, the claws retreat and my heartbeat slows down. It takes another minute for my vision to go back to normal, but I don't take my eyes off the old man who's retreated back to the corner, watching me.
They chose well sending you here tonight,
he says when I'm ready.
You've got enough control to deal with it. You wouldn't have needed a collar. They should have taken it off ages ago. Well, their loss is my gain. But let's talk business.
Business? I ask, my mouth dry. I feel strange, like that weakness you get just before you fall ill, where you don't quite know what's going on, and you can't put your finger on why you're not feeling as well as you usually do. I run my hand over my throat. The skin where their collar sat is soft and sensitive. Weak. I flip up the collar of my shirt and put my scarf back on. And remember that I should probably warn the man. You may want to take this, I say and throw a tiny vial towards him that I had hidden in one of the many pockets of my shirt. He catches it easily and looks at it curiously.
What's that?
Antidote to the poison I gave you. I grin. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you'd actually take off the collar or had some more sinister plans. He raises an eyebrow.
Dots?
I nod. Hidden in my collar. I pricked you when you put your hands around my throat.
Well, I didn't see that coming. Impressive. Seems you're cleverer than you look.
He uncorks the vial and swallows the contents. I'm amazed he trusts me not to poison him. Of course, I've already done that. But it could always be a double bluff. He screws up his face at the taste.
Ugh. Next time, add a little cinnamon. It enhances the aftertaste.
I keep my face passive. I'll keep it under advisement.
There's a lab in the basement. In the office, you'll find a folder with all the necessary key codes to get around the house and into the important rooms.
He picks up on my questioning look.
The weapons storage, the lab I mentioned, the training gym, and the morgue.
This time, I can't help but gasp. A morgue? In this house? He looks at me strangely.
Of course. Doesn't your current employer have one?
I shake my head. We just dispose of the bodies or leave them to be found. He clucks his tongue.
Ah, such a waste. There is much to learn about death by studying corpses, and you never know when you might need a well-placed corpse to send someone a message.
In a way, he makes sense, but at the same time, do I want to live in a house above a morgue? Then I remind myself, I'm an assassin. The one thing I'm really not scared about is death. There are a lot worse things on Earth than death itself. Current employer, I emphasize that last word as it's the one thing I'd never call Brett, will just let me go. He's invested in me. He's trained me. He won't accept me leaving and opening my own agency.
Oh, don't worry about that,
the man says dismissively.
He won't trouble you. What you need to concern yourself with is who to hire. I have a lot of work for you, and you won't be able to handle it all on your own. You can start small, but at some point, I expect you to have at least as many employees as your current manager.
Employer, manager. Is he using euphemisms, or does he really believe that's how it works? Slave master would be more accurate. Owner. It's not like we ever signed up to work for him. There's no wage, either. Does this man expect me to be like Brett, or does he want me to run things differently?
You'll find everything else you need in the office, including your first case. Of course, you're free to do as you wish, but my only condition is that my assignments always take priority over others. In return, you get the house, some cash, and, of course, a collarless life. Do you agree?
I don't have to think twice. Not because I wholeheartedly agree with all he's promising. I'm expecting him to break his promises anyway. But no, I'm good at double-crossing people. Very good. And no matter what he believes of me, the one thing I'm really good at is looking out for myself. The end. Chapter 1. 6 months later. He smells of sweat and fear. I cross my legs, the heels of my feet on the desk I'm currently sitting behind. Although lounging would be a better term. Mud is dripping from the soles of my boots. I'll have to clean that up later, but it works well for the badass appearance I'm trying to exude. I'm not someone to mess with. I don't care about rules, conventions, and dress codes. While the man on the other side of the desk is wearing a pristine suit, I'm in my usual leather tights and tunic. Tights because they don't get in the way when fighting or jumping off buildings, and a tunic because it's longer than a shirt and therefore has more space for hidden pockets. All in black, of course. Bloodstains are a pain to get out of clothes. I'm nothing but practical. My hair is hidden beneath the black cap I've started wearing recently. I think it makes me look more mysterious, although Lily keeps telling me to take it off. That girl has no sense for making an outfit convey a message. A dangerous one, in this case. Don't mess with me. That's what my clothes are saying. Especially the muddy boots on my desk. The man clears his throat.
You came highly recommended,
he mutters, as if he's not quite sure if he's allowed to speak. I raise an eyebrow. Who recommended me? His eyes widen. Typical deer-in-headlights look. He's scared, but not just of me.
Contacts?
He says evasively.
I'm willing to pay whatever fee you charge.
Immediately, my price list increases by about 10 times what I'd usually tell him. I do like wealthy customers. They rarely care what I charge other people, who are less well off. What is it that you need from me? I ask, studying him closely. He doesn't look like a man who's used to dealing with assassins. He's an office kind of guy who only ever reads about shady things in the newspaper.
My brother was killed. I need you to find whoever did it.
That makes me sit up a little straighter. You've come to the wrong place, sir, I say with a trace of condescension. I don't find killers, I send them. He cringes visibly.
Once you've found whoever killed my brother, you're welcome to kill the bastard.
I purse my lips. This is unusual. Actually, this has never happened before. I've done this job for half a year now, very successfully, but nobody has ever asked me to find an assassin. What if one of my people killed your brother? I ask, taking my feet off the desk to look at my records. What's his name?
I don't think it was a professional,
he mutters, not looking me in the eye.
It seemed unplanned and very violent.
He shudders slightly.
There was a lot of blood.
Interesting. He's right. That doesn't sound like an assassin did it. We take pride in leaving a crime scene as neat as possible. Don't want to make it too easy for the police. What's his name? I repeat.
Winston Kindler, 14B Merchant Street. He had a sweet shop there.
Sweets? Maybe I need to take on this case myself. It sounds enticing. I flick through my box of index cards, but I already know that I won't find a Mr. Kindler in there. While I don't do all the jobs myself, I deal with all our clients. I remember the names of our marks. What are the police doing? I ask absent-mindedly.
Nothing,
he says, anger lacing his voice.
They're convinced it was a mugging, but his wallet wasn't taken. The cash register was emptied, but the safe was intact. It was early in the day, so there wouldn't have been much in the money box anyway. It doesn't make sense.
I nod. Let's pretend I was to take this case. What kind of remuneration are we talking about? For the first time since he entered my office, he smiles.
How about a blank check?
There's a head in the fridge. I sigh. Not again.
Lily!
I shout.
I told you, no body parts in the kitchen!
My friend laughs.
Until you fix the morgue's cooling chamber, the fridge is the only place to keep them.
I groan. We've had a problem with that cooling room for 2 months now. Whenever I think it's fixed, it stops working again. It's like the basement is haunted. I'll get on it, I promise. We just got a very rich new client, so I'll be able to afford a professional handyman this time. Not Jock from around the corner who did it for free in the hope for a kiss from Lily. I think he made it worse. And didn't get a kiss, obviously. Lily isn't into guys, although she doesn't usually tell them. She likes to use her looks to her advantage. I close the fridge, unwilling to stare into the dead woman's eyes for much longer. To be fair, one of her eyes is missing, but while it's not enough to put me off my dinner, it's also not very appetizing. Get a second fridge for now, I tell Lily. I think you need it often enough to warrant the cost. She grins widely. She likes to play with her prey when she gets the chance. Sometimes that involves taking random body parts home to later send them to her marks' families. That may sound evil, but actually, Lily is a really nice girl. She just has a bit of a violent streak. What's for dinner? I ask, now that I know that there's nothing edible in the fridge.
Robbie was going to bring home some takeaway,
she says with a shrug.
He's not home yet, though, so we may have to wait a bit longer. Hungry?
I nod. Could eat a dinosaur. She laughs.
I don't think they're on the menu. Let's see what's left in the living room. I think there was half a bag of crisp left last night.
I don't meet her gaze. Not anymore. Lily puts her hands on her hips and glares at me.
Glutton.
I shrug. They were there. I'm an assassin. I kill things, even if it's just crisp. They're basically dead potatoes. She chuckles.
So, what's this new rich client about? The one who's financing our new cooling chamber?
I follow her into the living room, where she magically produces a bar of chocolate and a handful of dried peanuts. They look drier than they should, so I stick with the chocolate for now. We throw ourselves onto the biggest sofa. It's not my furniture. At least, I didn't buy any of it. It came with the house. I've been planning to get something more to my taste at some point, but money's been tight. When the mysterious man offered me a cash injection to start my business off with, he was talking about a rather small syringe, and I used most of that to pay off the pack. I shouldn't complain, though. I've got a house, an office, even a morgue. I had none of that before, and I even got rid of my collar. Win-win. He wants me to find whoever killed his brother, I say with a certain distaste.
Wait, that's new.
Lily laughs.
So, you're not going to kill anyone?
I shrug. I've got permission to kill the killer if I find them.
That's weird. Why would he come to you?
No idea. Maybe the pack refused his request. Maybe he only knows about me and not about any of the others in town. I have no clue, but the pay is totally worth the confusion. She raises an eyebrow.
How much?
I give her a cheeky wink. Enough. We'll be able to fix the house, pay ourselves some nice salaries, and feed a few stray cats at the same time. Lily chuckles.
You need to stop feeding them. I had 2 kittens sitting on the doorstep this morning, begging for food. I think they're beginning to learn to come here if they're hungry. That's all your fault.
Can't help it. I shrug. It's in my nature to help my fellow felines. She grins.
I'm not a feline, and yet you helped me.
I sigh. Okay, and friends. Felines and non-feline friends. Better?
Much. How are you going to find the killer, though? You don't have any experience with solving murders.
I'm sure I'm going to come up with something. First of all, I'm going to inspect the crime scene. Then find some witnesses. That's how they do it in books. She laughs again.
You're going to crack this case, I'm sure. Let me know if you need my help. Although, I'm quite busy with my current Mark. He's such a bore. But he loves his new girlfriend.
She chuckles.
Pity she's not actually real.
Lily grins widely. She's a predator playing with her prey before killing it. She loves to make men go crazy for her, then kills them right when they realize that they've been fooled. Break their hearts before stabbing them. She's evil in a fun way. Just like all of us. The Pride, my team of outcast assassins and ragtag thieves. Our reputation is increasing with every kill, and we're very efficient at killing. I still can't believe that 6 months ago, I was a slave, working for the pack because they had me collared. Now, I'm my own woman, a businesswoman. I work for myself, pay myself, even employ other people. And not a single one of them is collared. They're all here because they want to be. I yawn, tiredness catching up with me. I was up late last night, running over the roofs of the town, checking out the location of an assassination we're planning. I'm likely going to pass it on to one of the others now that I have a more lucrative job. This strange murder case is getting priority. We need the money. I'll head to bed, I announce. It takes all my stomach muscles to get up from the sofa. It's far too low and soft. Once I solve the murder, I'm going to buy us a new one.
Sweet dreams, Lily says with a cheeky smile. I might head out and have some fun.
I leave her to it and climb up the stairs until I reach the ladder leading up to the attic. I smile when I remember how I first came here. Back then, I thought what a lovely home this would make, how the loft would be perfect as a bedroom. Now, it's become exactly that. I climb the ladder and pull it up behind me, closing the trap door. I like my privacy. In the past few months, I've transformed the room into my own personal sanctum. Large pillows are strewn all over the floor that's now covered in dozens of rugs. A few shelves are clinging to the sloping wooden beams. I quickly change into something more comfortable and check that the window is closed properly. I broke in through it once, and I know how easy it would be for others to do just the same. I've had it reglazed with very thick glass, though. It should be strong enough to withstand anyone kicking against it. There's a small sound from outside that has me open the window to check it out. Someone is meowing softly. I lean out of the window until I see the tiny kitten clinging to the top of the window frame. It must have been running over the roofs, but then got stuck on top of the dormer window. Poor thing. I stretch out a hand and begin to purr. I don't want it to scratch me. Its ears flick when it realizes that I'm making the soothing sound. It's probably confused by a human sounding like a cat. They always are. Slowly, it steps onto my hand, just about fitting on it. I gently carry it into the room and put it onto the floor. It stares at me with large yellow eyes. Now what? I ask. I'm not going to take you all the way downstairs. You'll have to sleep here tonight. The kitten hisses. I know it understands me. Sorry, I tell it. I'm tired. It's not my fault you got stuck. Not wanting to be completely selfish, I pour some water from a bottle into a bowl and put it on the floor. At least the kitten will have something to drink. Now it's time to sleep. I yawn. I climb onto my hammock and am instantly transported into the land of dreams. Chapter 2. I blink open my eyes, only to stare into big yellow pupils lined with black. Whiskers stroke my cheeks. I groan and close my eyes again. It feels way too early. Shut up! I mutter and hide my head beneath a pillow. In response, the kitten begins to claw my shirt. Great. An alarm clock with claws. Worst invention ever. Piss off. I growl, but the cat doesn't budge. It's probably hungry. I breathe in deep. It's a male. Usually, I don't let males into my bed. I sleep with them in theirs and leave before sunrise. That's the rule. No attachments. Luckily, this little male isn't human. Okay, then. I sigh dramatically and sit up, surprising the kitten. He tumbles and lands on my thighs, meowing indignantly. I don't apologize. It's his fault for standing on my chest. Yawning loudly, I pick him up and climb out of the hammock. Usually, I'd get dressed, but the kitten won't stop asking for food. I'm far too easily manipulated. I take him downstairs into the kitchen. The house is quiet. I seem to be the first one awake. Don't look, I warn him and open one of the cabinets, revealing my stash of cat food. It's my guilty little secret. Even to me, it smells appetizing. But I've got enough of a grip on my feral side to resist the temptation. I put some of the food in a bowl and hand it to the kitten. He starts eating greedily, leaving me with an amused smile on my face. While he's enjoying his breakfast, I make myself some beans on toast. It's that kind of day. In a way, the beans almost look like wet cat food. Not sure if that makes them more or less enticing. He's already finished his food and still sounds hungry. Cats. Greedy little bastards. I grin and give him some more. I feel like giving him a name, but he probably already has one. To find out, I'd need to shift, but I'm not in the mood. I know cats can understand me when I'm human, but I only understand the intentions behind their meows, not actual words like names. Maybe I'll shift later, although by then he'll likely be gone. Unless what Lily said is true, and I am training the local cats to come here for food. I can't help it. Suddenly, a thought strikes my mind, and I almost meow myself. I think I've just had the most brilliant idea. I crouch down so I'm closer to the little kitten. He ignores me, busy eating the last remaining crumbs. No idea how he's managed to devour 2 bowls of cat food this fast. Even I would have taken longer than that. Hey, little one, I say quietly. Shall we make a deal? His ears twitch, but he continues eating. How about I give you food every day, and in return, you run some errands for me? Go to places and check them out, tell me if there are any humans around, stuff like that. I can feel how he's thinking about it, but he's too distracted by his meal. I sigh and wait for him to finish. He rubs his face with his front paws, and I think my heart is close to melting. He's too cute for my cold assassin heart. Maybe I shouldn't get involved with baby cats. They're bound to change me into a bubbling mess. So, what do you say? I ask again. Want to spy for me? Even though I'm not shifted, I feel his assent and grin. I've won a spy that nobody will ever suspect. Granted, he won't be able to tell me what the humans he sees are talking about, but he'll be able to do some reconnaissance. Cats are everywhere, and most people don't pay much attention to them. Very few people know that I can talk to them. This is going to be epic. I pick up the kitten and carry him to the front door. Come again tomorrow, and I'll give you both food and a mission. He looks at me with eyes so intelligent that I don't have any doubts about the success of this new venture. An image of other cats pops into my mind. I smile. Yes, you can bring your friends too, if they're interested. He turns around and runs off, not giving me a second glance. Cats usually give me more attention than they give humans, but they still don't like to appear needy or tamed. They always keep their word, though. Cats may be devious at times, but they're honest about it. I go back inside and eat my own breakfast. The beans have turned cold and the toast soggy, but I don't mind. In my head, I'm already making plans for an underground cat network. I'll have to order more cat food. Lily won't like it, but she'll see the advantage of it soon enough. I know disliking cats is intrinsic to her nature, but she's come to like me. I'm her best friend, and vice versa. I yawn and put my plate in the sink, hoping that someone will clean it. The probability of that is tiny, but that doesn't stop me. I have more important things to deal with than dirty dishes. In my office, I put my feet on the desk as always and take the top folder from my entry tray. Inside, a photograph of the murder victim stares at me. The man is still alive in the picture, but his eyes have a strange, haunted, terrified look. He was either anxious in general or scared of whoever took the photo. I draw a little question mark next to the picture. It's as good a starting point as any. The victim's brother has written a short statement on the next page. According to him, Winston Kindler was a quiet, reclusive man with very few hobbies. He went fishing occasionally, but not much else. No drug habits, no alcohol addiction, no mention of gambling either. A man so dull that even reading his file makes me yawn. All Winston seemed to do was work in his sweet shop and sit at home. Guess his shop is where I need to head to first. So far, there are no reasons at all for why someone would want to kill him. I take a notepad and scribble some instructions for Benjamin. Bank accounts, police records, medical information. Benjamin is a thief, the best, and he'll easily get me that info. No need to actually ask people for those documents. It's much quicker to just steal them. Maybe I'll see some new lines of inquiry once he's got them for me. But for now, I'm stuck with taking a look at the crime scene and the shop. Doesn't sound terribly exciting. Definitely not as fun as a good assassination. Then I remember that glorious blank check and decide that visiting a sweet shop will be a lovely thing to do. Winston Kindler's shop isn't closed like I expected. No, there's a queue of children snaking all the way around the street corner. Most of them are waiting patiently in line, but others are jumping up and down excitedly. What the fuck is going on? Also, is there no school today? Sometimes I lose track, but I'm pretty sure it's not a weekend today. I choose a girl who's standing by her own, looking a little lost. What's going on? I ask her, nodding towards the shop. She smiles shyly.
They're giving away free sweets.
I raise my eyebrows. Are they? Do you know why? She nods.
The owner died, and he said in his will that all the sweets should be given away for free.
The girl grins, exposing some blackened teeth. I'm tempted to tell her that she shouldn't eat any more sweets, but then ignore that thought. She wouldn't listen to me anyway. I let her be and walk to the entrance of the shop. Some of the children grumble about me skipping the queue, but nobody actually confronts me. I'm trying to keep my usual talk to me and I'll kill you aura to a minimum, but it's hard to let go of that habit. The fewer people know me, the fewer can testify against me in court, or kill me. I squeeze past a few rowdy boys until I'm inside the shop. It's every child's dream. Large glass jars full of sweets in every single color are packed onto shelves that seem to cover every inch of available space. It smells like chocolate and licorice, making me forget that I've already had breakfast. A young woman stands behind the counter, weighing sweets on antique brass scales. I wait until she's poured them in a paper bag and handed them to one of the boys before approaching her. The children behind me complain quietly as I interrupt the queue.
It's for children only, madam,
the girl says. She's barely out of childhood herself, maybe 17 at most. Her apron is full of sugar dust and syrup stains. She's rather plain, but her eyes sparkle with intelligence. I'm not here for the sweets, I say, working hard to keep the regret from my voice. I really hope she's going to offer me some mints despite my words. I'm here about the owner, Mr. Kindler.
Oh, such a tragedy,
she mutters.
He was so kind to everyone. I don't know why anyone would want to kill him.
You're aware he was murdered? I ask, a little surprised. She nods.
Oh, yes. We're neighbors. I saw his body.
She shudders.
It wasn't a pretty sight. But let's not talk about that in front of the children.
Her eyes flick to the boys behind us who are listening with wide eyes. This is going to be the gossip in all of the town's schoolyards soon. I agree. Do you have a break soon? She looks at her watch, a heavy, expensive one. Strange for a shop girl to wear one like that. An heirloom, maybe?
Officially in 1 hour, but with all that's going on, it might take longer. The news is spreading fast, and I think every single child in the city is on their way here. I wouldn't be surprised if I'll be standing behind the counter all day, or until the sweets are gone. It was a lovely gesture of Mr. Kindler to do this, but it's hard work for me.
For a split second, a shadow darkens her expression, as if she's not impressed with her former employer. I file it away in my mind, along with her almost calling him by his first name. Grudgingly, I nod. I'll be back in the evening. Here's my card in case you're done before I get here. I'm really glad I had those business cards printed. It doesn't say much on them, only my address and a phone number. No mention of assassinations. That would be tasteless.
Meow?
She asks, frowning. My business name. I reply. It's an acronym. I don't tell her what it stands for, because I don't know myself. Ever since I came up with the silly name, I've been trying to find an explanation that I can give to clients, something to pretend that it wasn't just a dumb joke. I never thought this whole business thing would actually take off. I would have chosen a slightly more serious name otherwise. But for now, I'm stuck with Meow, masters in ending others. Whatever. She slides my card into the front pocket of her apron, then gives me an annoyed look as if she's wondering why I'm still here, stopping the masses of children behind me from getting their sweets. See you later, I tell her, making it sound more like a threat than a promise. I'm not used to being nice to people. The people I deal with usually end up dead anyway, so there's no reason to waste time and emotional energy on pretending to like them. I can be professional with my clients, but I'm sure none of them would describe me as nice. Pleasantly cool, perhaps. Frosty helpful. But as long as they pay my fees, I don't care what they think. They don't matter to me in the slightest. I leave the sweet shop, almost wishing that I got myself a bag of mints. The smell in there has made me hungry. Breakfast feels too long ago. My metabolism has been crazy recently. I eat 3 times as much as I used to. Maybe it's the fact that I now have money to buy as much food as I want, or perhaps it's the effect of no longer wearing a collar. It's a little annoying, having to spend time on getting or making food several times a day, but at the same time, I've realized how much I like food. The little kick I get from a well-arranged platter, the taste of a new dish, the tingle of the spices I've discovered in the corner of the weekly market. Food is no longer just sustenance for me. It's become a hobby. Maybe it's a good thing that my current case is partly set in a sweet shop. I'll have an excuse to return there and perhaps sample the contents of those big glasses. For research purposes, obviously. Chapter 3. For now, I ignore the twinge of hunger poking my stomach and head towards the dead man's house. It's not far from the shop, just a few streets away. He had an easy commute to work with. I'm almost jealous. It's a pretty but boring neighborhood. Neat little terraced houses, most of their gardens expertly manicured. I gag at the thought of someone actually sitting there, making sure every bit of grass is as tall as the rest. How quaint. Mr. Kindler's house is one of 5 identical ones squeezed into one large, unsightly block. It's like someone took a handful of dough and cut it into 5 thin slices, not caring that they might be too small to live in. I know that Mr. Kindler lived alone, and I doubt there would have been space for more than just one person in this tiny house slice. I give the street another once-over. No one is around. No curtains are moving to suggest curious onlookers. It seems everyone's at work, school, or whatever else ordinary people do at 11 in the morning. Fishing, maybe. Who knows? I've never been among normal people. I usually just kill them. Confident that nobody is watching me, I head up the tiny driveway, barely large enough to allow a bike to be parked there, and fish a key from my pocket. There's no sign of any police activity. No police tape, no stickers warning me not to enter. They must have decided that there's no evidence worth protecting in the house. Let's see if I'll come to other conclusions. It wouldn't be the first time for me to outthink the police. The door opens with a squeak. It could do with some oil. Maybe he left it like that intentionally, as a sort of alarm bell. But somehow I doubt he was thinking in those sort of ways. The only indication I have of him being anything but the boring man his brother has described him as is that mugshot with haunted eyes and a slightly scared expression. It's not much to go on. I might be reading too much into that picture, but my instincts rarely prove me wrong. There's a short hallway ending in carpeted stairs at the end. 2 doors lead to either side, and I decide to check out the kitchen to my right. It's small, not that I expected anything else. It's also incredibly tidy, so clean that I doubt he's cooked in here. I randomly open some of the cupboards. Most of them are empty. The others sport a few basics like rice and sugar. His fridge contains nothing but a single can of cider and a piece of cheese that looks like it's seen healthier days. Again, it doesn't look like Mr. Kindler made much use of the kitchen. After opening even more drawers and cupboards and finding nothing, I head over to the living room opposite the kitchen. A worn sofa and a TV on a stained wooden cabinet is the only furniture. No bookshelves, no floor lamps, not even a rug. There's not a single cushion on the sofa. Who the heck doesn't have pillows? I take the remote control from the cabinet and press a few random buttons. Nothing happens. I check the socket, but there doesn't seem to be power. Great. A living room with nothing to do other than a TV, which isn't even working. Mr. Kindler must have been incredibly boring, or not who everyone thinks he was. I throw the remote on the sofa and pick it up again. There's something strange about it, something I didn't realize before. It's the wrong weight. It's too light. I turn it around and open the cover hiding the battery compartment. It's empty. Why aren't there batteries in the remote control? Sure, you don't really need it if the TV isn't working, but why bother removing the batteries when you could just leave them in? Slowly, I run my fingers over the black plastic. It still feels wrong. I close my eyes, focusing on my sense of touch. Optics can lie, but touch usually doesn't. There's something beneath the bottom of the battery compartment, like a second layer. How clever. I pry it open with my fingernails, revealing a key stuck in a small space underneath. It's a nondescript metal key that could open anything. I extract it and slip it into my pocket. Hopefully, I'll find the matching lock soon. This case is beginning to be a little more interesting. Now that I know that not everything in this house may be as it seems, I continue my exploration with a little more excitement. There's nothing else in the living room, but when I turn over the drawer of the bedroom cabinet, I grin. Bingo. There's an envelope taped to the bottom of it. I'm kind of disappointed when there's nothing but money in there, but when I count it, I revise my opinion. That's a lot of money for a sweet shop owner. Hell, it's more than my mysterious benefactor gave me. With this, I could fix up the house and give us all a holiday. I'm glad nobody is around to see my devious smile. I'm trained to keep my expression neutral, but it's tough to keep a straight face when you're looking at over 1,000 dirhams. I slip it into a pocket hidden in the lining of my coat and put the drawer back in place. Finders keepers. What I really want to find is whatever the key opens. A safe? A hidden drawer? A door to a secret room? Sadly, there's not a single locked keyhole in the entire house. That's strange in itself, but compared to the banknotes hidden in his bedroom, this is peanuts. This amount fits the image of the sweet shop owner I had in mind. Enough to pay expenses and maybe unplanned repair, but nothing that could provoke suspicion. That's what the entire house feels like. Average, bending to stereotypes. Everything exactly like what you'd expect. That in itself makes me want to discover something incriminating. Nobody is this boring, especially not someone who got murdered. There are some random bills and invoices in his desk drawers. The sight of them makes me yawn. I have the same waiting for me in my in-tray in my own office. I like to ignore them. They give me a headache. It seems Mr. Kindler did the same. Some of these bills are from last year, and they don't look like he ever even took them out of the drawer. After one final sweep of his house, I head out into his perfectly manicured back garden. It's basically just a small stretch of grass leading to the tiniest garden shed I've ever seen. It's too low for me to enter without bending my head, and I'm not the tallest woman around. Inside are a lawnmower and some other tools that I wouldn't even know what to do with. I've never had a garden, and I'm not planning to have one in the future. I'm not a garden person. I can picture Winston Kindler here, though. Kneeling on a foam mat, using scissors to cut his grass into the perfect length. Boring. I've tried having plants in the house to make it look more like a home, but they usually die. Mostly because I kill them. Old habits die hard. Cat, the plant assassin. Yup, that's me. Yet another title to add to my business card. Might be easier to explain than Meow. Something about this shed irritates me, and I throw all the tools outside until the hut is empty. Sadly, there's no hidden cache. Not even a trap door. I do love a pretty trap door, but they're hard to come by nowadays. Disappointed, I put everything back inside, not really caring that it now looks like an earthquake made everything fall from shelves and hooks. The lawnmower is last. It's bright red and reminds me of a ladybug for some reason. When I lift it to put it back in the shed, something on the cord catches my eye. There are numbers scribbled on the orange rubber. 3957204. It's not printed on the cord, otherwise I'd assume it would be a barcode or something like that. No, it's drawn there in shaky, uneven marker pen. I write the numbers in my little notebook, kind of hoping that they're the combination for a safe or something exciting like that. With my luck, it might just be his favorite numbers that he's written there because he was bored with being a boring sweet shop owner. I sigh. I now have a key and a series of numbers, but don't know what to do with them. I've explored the entire house and the garden. Not that there's a lot to explore here besides the shed, but found nothing of interest. Except for the fact that it doesn't look very lived in. No cushions on the sofa, an empty fridge, brand new bedding, and even the tools in the shed look unused. It's like Winston Kindler lived somewhere else and only used this as a pretend home. But why would anyone do that? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe I'll find more answers in the sweet shop. Chapter 4. I grab a sandwich on the way, knowing that the sweet shop will make me hungry again. I don't see how anyone can work there without being fat as a dog. I'd probably get fired on my first day for eating too much. Maybe it's because I never got any sweets while growing up. Now that I can decide what I eat and when, sugar plays a major part in my diet. There are still children waiting in front of the shop, but the queue has grown a lot shorter. I ignore them and head inside, impatient to wait even longer. The girl is still behind the counter, now looking decidedly exhausted. No wonder, if she's been handing out sweets all day. At least I got to explore the neighborhood. When she sees me, she sighs.
I'm still not done.
Is there a back room I can wait in? I ask her, and she sighs again.
There's a small office. Don't touch anything. I'll be with you as soon as possible.
I smile pleasantly and let her guide me into the office, which is just off the shop room. She didn't exaggerate when she called it small. It's basically just a desk, a shelf, and an old leather chair that looks like it's about to fall apart. The shelf is brimming with folders and papers, completely the opposite with Mr. Kindler's home office. This room actually looked like it's been used regularly. The desk is cluttered with letters and bills. The girl has returned to the shop, and I can hear her talking to the kids, so nothing is stopping me from exploring. Did she mention something about not touching anything? No, I don't think so. It must have been deleted from my memory. The documents on the desk are boring. Electricity bills, train tickets, invoices for large amounts of sweets. Nothing unusual in the slightest. I make my way through the two drawers. They're stacked to the top with more sheets of paper. There's no order to it, no filing system at all. It's like he simply threw everything into a drawer and hoped that it would sort itself. In a way, I find that endearing, but it makes my job a lot harder. The bottom drawer is a very different beast. It only contains a small metal lockbox. The shop's earnings, perhaps? There's no key, and sadly, the keyhole is too small for the key I found at Winston Kindler's home. I rattle the box. The sound of coins rattling against the metal confirms my suspicions. There's definitely money in there. Maybe the girl has the key. Disappointed by the lack of anything exciting or discriminating, I turn to the shelf behind me. I can't help but sigh. This is chaos. Folders of all shapes and sizes, a few tattered books, and stacks of old papers. How is anyone supposed to find something in that mess? I randomly take a blue folder and leaf through its pages. Inventories from 10 years ago. Seriously? Why would Mr. Kindler need to know how many mints and how many caramel delights he had 10 years ago? Maybe he never got around going through his files. Perhaps he was emotionally attached to the inventories. Who knows? I don't really care. The next few files I look at are just as dull. I think I better stick to killing people. The girl rescues me from boredom. When I hear her close the shop door, I quickly put the files back to where I found them. More or less. Nobody would notice in this chaos anyway. I cross my legs and try to appear innocent. She stops in front of the desk and gives me a suspicious look.
Did you touch anything?
She asked me with a frown. I hold up my hands. You told me not to.
That's not what I asked.
She sighs, but then lets herself fall onto the second chair in the room, her exhaustion evident. No wonder. She's been dealing with greedy children all day. It must be hard, all by yourself, I say, pretending to be a nice person. I've heard that sometimes that can have a better result than threatening. Let's see. I'm not quite convinced yet. She shrugs.
It will be over soon. Now that most of the sweets are gone, I'm going to try and get rid of the rest, and then the shop will be sold. I'll have to look for a new job.
She looks defeated, her earlier spunk gone. Did he leave you nothing? I ask gently. Was it his wish for the shop to be sold? She nods.
He'd planned to sell the shop next year anyway. He never told me why, because business was going well. The kids loved him. Granted, that was mainly because of his low prices and not because he was particularly good with children, but still, they kept coming back and spent their pocket money in our shop.
She quickly corrects herself.
In his shop.
I pity the girl. I'd almost be tempted to offer her a job, but I don't think she's cut out to be in my line of work. What's your name? I ask her, realizing that I never actually did. Yes, I know, my people skills suck.
Caitlin,
she replies with a smile.
Caitlin Bauman. You never told me yours.
I smile back and ignore the question. Tell me about Mr. Kindler. How was he as an employer? She shrugs.
He always paid me on time. He never got angry or shouty. He expected me to do my job well, but he could be understanding if I needed a day off to help look after my little brothers.
Did he have any money trouble? And Caitlin shakes her head.
No, I don't think so. If he did, he never mentioned it. As I said, he always paid my salary, and I earned more here than in my previous jobs. I liked working for him.
Boring, boring, boring. I have to remind me of the paycheck that is waiting for me. Otherwise, I'd run out screaming. I'm not made to be an investigator. I'm much better at killing. It doesn't involve actually having to talk to people and pretending to care about their answers. I sigh. There must be something that would make people want to kill him. She shakes her head again.
I can't think of anything, and believe me, I've tried finding a reason why he was murdered. He didn't talk about his personal life, but I always had the impression that he was quite a happy man without many worries. If he did, he hid them well.
Now it's my turn to sigh. So, you have no idea why this happened?
No, I don't. It's as much a mystery to me as it is to you.
She snaps.
But his death destroyed any chances of me having a stable job and income, so I'm not pleased about it. I certainly wouldn't have wanted him dead, if that's what you're going to ask next.
I lean back in the uncomfortable office chair, desperately wishing I was somewhere else. Maybe I should ask my Meow employees to do the rest of the investigation. I can give them a raise if they find the murderer. That should be motivation enough. Ugh.
I find it strange, though, that he wanted me to give away all the sweets.
She suddenly says into the silence.
I would have been able to sell them for a good price or give them to the new owner. Some of the sweet jars were newly refilled, and now they're empty. Those kids have eaten hundreds of dirhams today.
It must be painful for her to think of that kind of money being given away. She'll be without a job soon, and Mr. Kindler didn't leave her anything. I add it to my list of the strange behaviors of Winston Kindler. It's getting longer the more I find out about him. Would you mind if one of my assistants comes here tomorrow to take a look at the files? I ask her. That would help you as well, getting some order into this mess. She looks around the office as if she's only now realizing how chaotic everything is.
It wasn't always this messy,
she says quietly.
He used to like everything clean and tidy. Then it all changed a few months ago, as if he no longer cared about the shop's finances. That's when he started talking about selling the shop as well. He'd never mentioned that before. I always thought he'd carry on running this place until he retired.
A few months ago. Can you remember when exactly? I ask while making a quick note of what she just said. Finally, something that could qualify as a lead. She frowns.
It was winter. I remember there being snow. I was thinking how cold it would be if I didn't have this job. Our house is so hard to heat.
Tell me about it. I love having my large house, but it's a pain to keep warm in winter. What is expensive to buy in the quantities we need to keep all our fireplaces running?
January, I think. Yes, it must have been in January.
I smile at her. Thank you. That really helps. Was there anything else that seemed strange back then? Caitlin shakes her head.
No, that's why it was such a shock to hear that he was planning to sell the shop. There had been no indications before. Absolutely nothing. It came out of the blue.
I get up and almost groan as I realize how uncomfortable the chair really was. I'm going to need a stretch after this, or better, a run. Let me know if you can think of anything else. I hand her another of my business cards, just in case she lost hers already. And good luck with finding a new job. She grimaces.
Thanks. It's not as if this town has a lot of those.
I'm almost out of the door when I turn. Almost forgot. Is there a safe somewhere? I found a key in Mr. Kindler's house. Caitlin shakes her head.
No, we only have the shop, this office, a toilet, and a storeroom. There's no space for something as fancy as a safe. He always took our day's earning to the bank in the evening to make sure there was nothing to steal.
Can I see the storeroom? Her expression turns hostile.
No, you can't. Now, I think it's better if you leave. You've taken up too much of my time already. I need to clean the shop, and it's late already.
Interesting. I think I know where I'll go tonight. I do love a little breaking and entering. Chapter 5. It's raining, but that doesn't stop me from enjoying the run over the rooftops. I could walk on the street like an average person would, and then disappear into the shadows once I reach my destination. But that wouldn't be as much fun. I love the way I need to keep my balance, the way the tiles occasionally threaten to slip beneath my feet. It's good training in being silent but fast. The town looks different from up here. Cleaner. Prettier. None of the grime covering the streets. None of the homeless sleeping in dark corners. There are more of those every year. I can't remember ever seeing anyone sleeping rough when I was a child, but now there are too many to count. Sometimes one of them disappears and is never seen again, but who cares? Nobody but the other homeless, and even those might be glad that they can now take his place. It's a rough world out there. Even though I now have money and a warm home, I still don't feel like I belong. I'm not like the other people living in houses, going to work every day, having a family and a pet. I don't think I'll ever have that. Not with the way I was brought up. I never chose to be a killer. But now, it's what I am. It's what I'm good at. And I enjoy it. Immensely. I jump from roof to roof, loving the way it stretches my muscles. I've done too much sitting today. After speaking to Caitlin, I had to spend some time back home in my own office, updating the others and writing some notes. It's a pain in the arse, but I don't want to miss anything that might be glaringly obvious. Benjamin is going to go to the sweet shop tomorrow to take a look at the finances. He's the brain of Meow, and the best thief. Even if Caitlin is watching, he'll be able to take any folders that may be useful to us. I've told him not to take any money that might be hidden in the lockbox in the bottom drawer, but I know he will do it anyway. It's ingrained in his nature, and I'm really not the right person to judge him for that. At least it saves me from having to do it. Benjamin is excellent with numbers. If I could trust him not to take half of Meow's company money, he'd do all my finances too. Sadly, I don't trust him. That doesn't mean that he's not my friend. I come to a halt on the roof opposite the sweet shop and crouch low, scanning the narrow street down below. There's nobody around, not even a cat. I measure the distance. It should work. Climbing down would be so much effort. Yeah, jumping it is. I walk back a few steps and stretch my legs before taking a deep breath. I can do this. I run and jump, flying through the air, the rain suddenly heavy on my skin as if it's trying to push me down. I just about get a hold of the shop's drain and heave myself up onto the roof. Close call, but I made it, as I knew I would. Never doubt your own abilities. That's what I've learned from the very beginning. If you don't think you can kill your mark, you'll make mistakes. If you don't think you can steal something from a watchful person, you'll be caught. Doubting yourself is bad for business, and for your life. I walk to the edge of the roof where it leads down to a lower building that must have been added as an extension after the shop was built. It's an easy drop, although I'm a little worried by the sound the metal roof does when I land on it. I hope it's not too rusty. To avoid any accident, I jump the final stretch, landing in a small backyard. Brick walls loom all around me, but I'm only interested in the iron door that must lead to the storeroom in the extension. The lock is an easy pick that almost disappoints me. I was looking forward to the challenge, but even a baby could do this. An assassin baby, granted, but still. Hopefully, there will be something interesting inside. Caitlin was far too abrupt when I asked to see the storage. There must be something here she doesn't want me to see. There are no windows, so I don't hesitate flipping the light switch. And stare. I was expecting stacks of boxes, wooden crates, stuff like that. But there's nothing. Nothing except for a thin foam mattress in the center of the room. I slowly approach the mattress. It's old and stained, and thinner than it would be comfortable. A smell of stale body odor fills the air around it. I rub my nose and start breathing through my mouth. It seems someone sleeps here regularly. Someone who has a disregard for hygiene. It can't be Caitlin. While her clothes were simple, they were also spotless, just like her hair and everything else. So, who did sleep here? Winston Kindler? He had his own house, but it didn't look lived in. But come on, who would rather sleep on a dirty mattress in a windowless storeroom than in a pretty little house? There's a thin gray blanket ruffled up into a ball at the other end of the mattress, but there are no other possessions of the mystery sleeper. No clothes, not even a water bottle. I lift the mattress and check underneath. Bingo. There's a stained envelope, slightly sticky to the touch. I walk back to the other end of the room where the light is brighter and open the envelope. There's only a small piece of paper in there, as well as a black and white photograph. I read the note first. 17 Marketplace, 7862. She'll be waiting for you. Come alone. P.S. 100 children. Don't forget. I read the message several times. It doesn't make much sense. I better head to Marketplace and check out house number 17 to find answers. The photo's edges are bent and discolored, as if someone's been holding it a lot. It shows a young woman, maybe my age, with a gentle smile and kind eyes. With her old-fashioned clothes and the fact that the old photograph is in black and white, it must be quite old. A few decades at the very least. I run a finger over her bright blonde hair, wondering who she might be. By now she must be an old woman. Her hair will have turned gray. There will be wrinkles on her face. If she's still alive, that is. I put the photograph and the note back in the envelope and pocket it. I take another quick look around the empty room, but there's nothing here to explore. I'm going to have to return to Caitlin tomorrow and ask her what the hell is going on. Right now, I'm pissed off that she didn't tell me someone was living here. She could have saved me some valuable time. Tomorrow, I'm going to be less friendly to her. Back home, a cat is waiting for me on the front doorstep. I don't think I've seen her before. She's a beautiful dark ginger with fluffy fur that is slightly matted in places. You need a good brush, I mutter and bend down to pet her. She purrs and presses against my legs, pushing against my hand when I rub her head. She looks up at me with bright green eyes that convey an intelligence that has me smile. She's no ordinary cat. Got something for me? I ask her, and she meows. Let's get you some food, and I might even brush your fur, after you've told me what you know. She meows her approval, and I let her into the house. She heads straight to the kitchen, as if she's been there before. The other cat must have told her what to expect. It seems my spy network is beginning to work. Not that I've had any information from her yet. Maybe she's bluffing. I chuckle to myself. That's exactly what a cat would do. I put an empty food bowl in front of her, then kneel on the ground until I'm almost at her level. I'm going to shift, I warn her. Don't be scared. I'll be a little bigger than you, but I won't harm you. I just need to be able to talk to you. She just stares at me. Oh, the arrogance of cats. How dare I imply that she may be scared? Of course she won't be. She's a cat, a predator, a feline killing machine. I grin and reach for my panther. She stretches and with a growl jumps to the surface. I can't suppress a whimper as my body changes. It's a painful but quick shift. It's intrinsic magic somehow keeping it without the blood and torn clothes that you'd technically expect when imagining a human turning into a giant black cat. Not that anyone would really believe that, unless they've had contacts with shifters. When I open my eyes, blinking heavily to adjust to my new, different vision, I'm not surprised to see the ginger cat in exactly the spot she was before I shifted. She looks at me with an almost bored expression. What a poker face. What's your name? I ask, knowing that to any humans that might enter the kitchen, it will sound like a strange mix of growls, chirps, and purrs. All cats understand each other, even though there are a variety of dialects. Pan, she replies in a melodic but lofty voice. I was promised food. I grin. Such confidence. Most humans would be scared of me right now, with my sharp claws and my muscular body that screams deadly predator. You will get it. What do you have for me? The house you went to. She starts, but I interrupt her. What house? How do you know that? She gives me a blink that equals a human shrug. Some of us were following you. It's always good to have some intelligence on an employer. I'm a little stunned by her words. Wait, you've done this before? You've worked for other people in the past? No, but it's what Riker said. Riker? She sighs. Pumpkin's father. He was the one who told us that you have jobs going. You gave Pumpkin food this morning, and he vetted you. He said you smelled trustworthy. What an honor, I say, sarcasm dripping from my growled words. I've now been labeled trustworthy by a kitten. How lovely. I lick my paw, remembering how good that feels. I've not spent much time as a jaguar recently. I should really do it more often. Back when my collar was opened, I stayed in my shifted form for 2 weeks straight. It took that long to familiarize myself with that other me again. I'd been wearing a collar for 15 years. long enough to almost forget what it was like to explore the world from a non-human perspective.
After you left, some human men came to the house,
Pan says, interrupting my thoughts. Better that way. I don't like being reminded of those dark days. Days that turned into years, into my childhood, my adolescence. What do they do? I ask her before my mind can drift off again.
Snooped around, did the same things you did, looked in the shed, walked through the house. They took less time than you, and then left.
What did they look like? Were they police? She sniffs at me.
Police?
It's as if it hurts her not to know something. Were they wearing uniforms? I try again. Dark blue uniforms?
We don't care about what furs humans wear,
She replies arrogantly.
but I can ask my sister who was there.
This is becoming complicated. Too many cats, too many names. Please do. Can some of you also keep an eye on the sweet shop? There's something suspicious about that place.
We want daily food deliveries.
She demands.
Enough for 20 of us.
I give her a cautionary growl, but she doesn't even flick her ears. 20? Aren't cats supposed to be solitary creatures?
Not since Riker arrived. He's been bringing us all together, shown us that we can have a better life if we help each other out.
Wow. I need to meet this Riker. If he's managed to get a bunch of cats to act against their nature, he must be one special beast. Food for 10 cats, no more, until I know you're worth it. I meet her eyes, showing her that I mean it. There's no bargaining with a jaguar. It takes her 30 seconds of starting to realize that. Then, finally, she averts her eyes and meows.
Deal. We'll collect it here every morning until we can trust you with our location.
Ouch. That hurt. Chapter 6.
Cat, come down. You've got visitors.
I almost fall off my hammock. It feels early. Far too fucking early. I got to bed late, and usually the others respect my wish to sleep in. Not today, apparently. I join Lily in the kitchen, not bothering to change into something more professional than my pajamas. "Oh," she says with a grin, pointing at my crotch. Damn, not again. How do I always manage to rip my clothes in indecent places? I need to stop sitting cross-legged everywhere. It's not good for my clothes bill. If I could sew, well, no. Even then, I wouldn't have the time nor patience to repair the hole in my pajama bottoms. What's up? I ask with a yawn while pulling my shirt further down to hide the hole.
5 cats are waiting outside.
She replies with a grin.
I assume that's your doing?
Ah, yes. I should have probably told the others what I agreed with the local cat population. Meet our latest employees. She chuckles.
You're actually paying them?
I shrug and get a mug from the cupboard, taking advantage of the hot water that is still in the kettle. I pay them in cat food. They spy for me. I'm doing it as a test run for this case, but if it works, maybe they could become a permanent fixture for Meow. Neither our clients nor our marks would expect the local Moggy to be spying for us. Lily grins wickedly.
Very true. You've told them that they can't expect brushing and massages, though, right?
I don't deign that with the reply and instead pour me a cup of tea.
Because Ben is out there doing exactly that.
I thought he didn't like cats. I mutter and take my first sip of tea. Heavenly. It's so hot it burns my gums, but that also means I'm a little more awake now. Pain does that to your brain.
That's what he says,
Lily says with a laugh.
After seeing him surrounded by cats, I no longer believe him, but You know what that also means, right?
I raise an eyebrow instead of asking what she means.
He might like you more than he admits to. After all, you're kind of a cat.
I almost spit out my tea. You did not just say that.
That you're an overgrown cat, or that he might have a crush on you?
Both, I snap. She laughs again.
Would it be so bad if it was true? He's handsome, in a boyish sort of way.
I snort. Exactly. He's far too young for me. He still needs to grow his adult whiskers.
We've resorted to cat metaphors now, have we?
She mocks, grinning widely.
That's usually a sign that you're lying.
I take another sip of tea, loving the way the hot liquid runs down into my stomach. It makes me feel alive. He's too young, I repeat. Besides, I don't have time for stuff like that. I have a murder to solve, and then, once this case is finally done, a murder to cause. Or two. I already missed that line of work. This detective thing really isn't for me. She looks at me with a hint of sympathy.
Need any help?
Actually, yes. The brother of the guy who died. Can you get close to him? Find out if there's anything he might not have told me. There are so many question marks surrounding the murder that I'm having trouble trusting anything I've been told.
Sure thing. Is he hot?
I sigh. Are you sure you're not an incubus? Lily laughs.
Those don't exist. I'm just a sexually liberated woman who knows what to do with her womanly wiles.
This time, I really do snort into my mug. Womanly wiles? Are you for real?
Real as it gets. And what's most important, my boobs are real too. Men like that. Anyway, give me the guy's address and I'll do some investigating.
She gives me a saucy wink.
Now go and talk to the cats, or Ben, or both.
She shoos me out of the kitchen. My kitchen, and I find myself face to face with our thief. He's covered in cat hair and has something of a crazy grin on his face. There are cats outside, he tells me, as if that isn't obvious by now. I know. Did you feed them yet? He blushes. I did. Wasn't I supposed to? I laugh. No, that was exactly what you were supposed to do. Tell you what, from now on, you're responsible for feeding the cats every morning. It's going to be 10 of them, so you better order some more cat food. Clear? He groans, but then nods. Aye, aye. Now I need a shower, though. I can't do my job if I smell of cat. I laugh as he walks away, muttering to himself. I found him pretty early on in my business venture. He tried to steal my bag and failed, obviously. He was also on the run from the pack, just like I was. Except that he was alone on the streets while I had a house, money, an anonymous benefactor. I made him prove that he was good at picking pockets. Then I took him on as an employee. It's worked out well for both of us, but what I told Lily was right. He's too young for me. 2 years younger than me at the very least, and I'm not into that. I prefer men over boys. Men who know where to stick it and don't have to fumble around helplessly. One of the cats sticks his head through the open door, glaring at me. Did I do something wrong? Good morning, I tell him and follow him outside. There are 8 other cats spread out across the stone steps leading up to the door, all of them busy either eating or licking their fur. My skin begins to itch at the sight. I love doing that to myself when I'm shifted, lying in the sun, grooming myself, snoozing the day away. Cats have the perfect life. Sadly, I'm only partly like them. I rarely have the time to relax. There's always work to do. Even now, I can't stay to watch them play. Do I need to shift? I ask the male cat, who's still staring at me. Is there something I need to know? He meows, and I hear the negation in his voice. Good. Saves me from using up energy on shifting. Then eat something and don't bother me, I tell him, realizing that I never got to finish my tea. I've not had breakfast yet, either. Mornings are cruel. The cat gives me a glare and then struts away with a swagger, not sparing me a second glance. I wonder if this is Riker. Reassured that the cats have all they need and demand, I change clothes and make myself a sandwich, intending to eat it on the way. Before I leave, I make sure that both Lily and Benjamin know what they're doing today. Then, I head off towards the market. Of course, I had to pick market day. The entire square is full of stalls and people, battering against my senses. I toned down my panther abilities as much as possible. The stink of the town would be unbearable otherwise. I never buy from the market, not when I can smell the first signs of decay on the meat, the scent of mold on vegetables. Nothing here is good quality, and yet people buy it because it makes them feel better than going to the shops. The market is just a front for some of the town's shadier dealings, but, of course, most people don't know that. They think they're supporting their local businesses, while in fact, they're giving money to drug dealers and smugglers. They don't know that sometimes their fruits smell like dead bodies and that the apple they eat may have been in contact with a victim of violence. It's a strange place, this market. Number 17 is a tall, imposing building at the edge of the market square, far enough not to get the smells and the noise, but close enough to see what may be going on. There are multiple names on the sign outside, none of which ring any bells. I write them all down, just in case. Maybe one of them will make sense later. I try the door, and surprisingly, it's open. Taking a quick look around to see if anyone's watching me, I step inside. The stairwell is pleasantly cool. The staircase winds around a single marble column that runs all the way up to the top floor. It reeks of money. All I have to go on is a string of numbers, 7862. Maybe there's a flat 7? I'm rather hoping of finding a door with a keypad, however. That would be much more fun. Inspecting each and every door, I slowly work my way up. On the 3rd floor, I find a broom cupboard squeezed in between flats 5 and 6. Sadly, there's nothing inside except for a rather large spider who's turned the little room into a work of art. Well done, I whisper, and close the door behind me, leaving her to it. 1 floor up, I can't help but smile in excitement. There's not just a flat 7, but there's also a keypad. 2 in 1. Finally, something good happens. I press my ear against the wooden door, listening for any sounds on the other side. Nothing. I close my eyes and extend my senses as far as I can, searching for any signs of life. There's someone in flat 8 next door, but not in the one I'm about to enter. I open my eyes again and key in the number, 7862. A little green light blinks twice, and the lock opens with a click. I'm in. Before I enter, I scan the hallway in front of me. There could be traps, who knows? By now, with so many strange clues and contradictions, in this case, I'm prepared for anything and everything. Slowly, I make my way forward, keeping all my senses on high alert. I'm not in the mood for nasty surprises. The first room on the left is a kitchen. I give it a quick search. It's empty. No pots and pans, not even cutlery. The fridge isn't even on. What's strange, though, is that there is no dust. The place looks like nobody is using it, but it must have been cleaned recently. Maybe someone is going to sell it? Connected by an open door frame is a small dining room. There are burn stains on the large dinner table, but the cabinets lining the walls are empty. I check the undersides of the chairs and table, behind the shelves, everywhere, but I don't find anything. No secret notes, no bundles of cash, no locked doors. My mind is telling me to relax, but I don't. Something about this place is giving me the creeps. The next room is completely empty. No furniture, just some discoloration of the walls where furniture must have stood at some point. There are traces of mold in one corner. There's a huge red rug in the center of the room, but nothing underneath. Pity. I was kind of hoping for a trap door. Did I mention that I love trapdoors? If my house didn't already have one, I would have installed one after moving in. The bathroom is just as uninteresting. The toilet looks disgusting and completely the opposite of the clean kitchen. Stains of body fluids are everywhere. There's a stench in the air that makes me want to puke. I hold my breath as I lift the lid with disgust scrunching my features, and almost puke when I see the glass jars sitting at the bottom of the toilet. Yuck. I wish I'd brought gloves. Well, I'm wearing leather gloves, but I'm not getting those dirty. They're my favorite pair. Luckily, I find some rubber gloves in the kitchen together with a bucket. Back in the bathroom, I switch on the fan, hoping that it will make the smell a little less intense. Ignoring the urge to throw up, I plunge my hand into the brown water and pull out the glass, immediately putting it in the sink to clean it of all the things sticking to it. Whoever thought it would be a good idea to hide something in the toilet? I keep the tap switched on even after the jar looks clean. I don't want some nameless people's shit on my hands. Now that all the dirt has washed away, I can finally look inside. There's a rolled-up paper, and inside of it, I can just about make out some banknotes. I gently shake the glass, and it makes a clunky sound. There's something metal inside. Satisfied that it won't get any cleaner, I switch off the tap and open the lid of the glass jar, careful not to let any water drip on the paper. I decide it's time to leave the bathroom and return to the kitchen, grateful for its cleanliness. I've never been a clean freak, but there are certain minimum standards that I value, like a toilet that isn't full of feces and dried piss. After drying the glass with a tea towel I find at the bottom of one drawer, I get to work, carefully pouring the contents on the kitchen counter. Besides the paper and a large bunch of money, a key and 2 large coins fall out. I'm kind of expecting a love letter, an order to assassinate someone, or some other juicy content, but the letter is as boring as this entire case. It's an invoice. A bloody invoice. And it's all sweets. The list would make my mouth water if I hadn't just had my hand inside a toilet. Mint humbugs, acid drops, licorice curls, sherbet lemons. This is any child's dream. I bet those are the same sweets Mr. Kindler sold. It's definitely a link to the case, but I can't get my head around the fact that someone thought this invoice important enough to hide it. For me, it looks normal. The quantities aren't exciting, nor are the cost prices. I shrug and decide to let Benjamin take a look at it. Maybe he can spot something I don't. I won't show him the money, though, or it would be gone immediately. It's at least 1,000 dirhams. To be honest, this case is becoming slightly profitable on so many levels. The key is similar to the one I found in Winston's remote control. I rummage in my bag until I find that one and compare the two. No, they're not similar. They're identical, down to the smallest tooth. How very strange. Finally, I take a look at the 2 coins. They're the same, a bronze coin with a square in the center that's cut through in the middle with a sharp vertical dash. No idea what that's supposed to mean. They don't look like they could be currency from abroad. There are no numbers on them to indicate their value. Besides, they almost look handmade, judging from the slight differences in weight. I put everything in my bag and go through the flat one last time. Maybe I've missed something. I really hope so, because otherwise, I'm back to square one. 4 rooms, 1 of them empty, 1 of them clean, 1 of them dirty, and the 4th somewhere in between. Something is missing. No bedroom. And now that I think about it, the layout of the flat doesn't make sense. There are more rooms on the left of the hallway than on the right. There must be a large empty space there that isn't being used. Please let it be a hidden room. Please. That would make my day. Chapter 7. I hold my breath and go back into the bathroom, the only room to the right. There are only a toilet and a sink, no shower or bathtub. Again, that feels strange. How are people living in this flat supposed to wash? There is, however, a full-length mirror on the right wall. I inspect it from all sides, then push the edges. When I press my fingers on the wooden surrounding on the left, there's a visible click, like a lock springing open. I grip the wood with my fingernails and pull. Ta-da! There's a door behind it. Success. Finally. Leaving the smelly bathroom behind, I step into a dark room. I switch on my torch and can't find a light switch, but there's a window with the curtains drawn. I pull them open, letting light in. Wow, I did not expect this. 2 metal tables are in the center, strange appliances and tools strewn on top of them. My training kicks in, and before I go and explore, I circle the room, looking for alarms, traps, or anything else that could inconvenience me. Besides a narrow crate full of knives beneath a shelf, an assassin's wet dream, there are no dangerous things in the room. I grin and head towards my prize, the tables in the center of the room. There's a strange white powder everywhere. Sugar? Something more sinister? I take a tiny glass jar from my bag and brush some powder in there. I'm going to test it later on at home. I'm good with poisons, and I bet I'm going to find out what this is. I recognize some of the tools on the tables from my own kitchen, but others I don't know. It looks a bit like a mixture of a bakery and a pharmacy. Vials with liquids of various colors, metal shapes that remind me of the ones you can use to make your own chocolates, bowls with whisk and scrapers, and in the middle of it all, a cardboard box full of plastic bags, which are filled with white powder. The same one that's scattered all over the table, I bet. I pocket one of them, careful to wrap it in a second bag, just in case. If this is some kind of poison, I don't want it contaminating everything in my bag. There are no gloves or protective gear anywhere in the room, which makes me think that it's not a poison that acts through the skin. Maybe ingestion? Or mix it with water and inject it? I can't wait to get back home to my lab and experiment. I spend the next 2 hours meticulously searching the room. I pocket some invoices and order forms for various ingredients, none of them suspicious, but you never know, and take a few books from the shelf. 2 of them are romance novels, and I bet the people who worked here weren't into that kind of book. There must be something interesting in them, but I don't want to linger here too long. The disadvantage with taking them is that whoever owns this place will know that I was here, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm almost ready to go when I open the bottom doors of a pretty wooden cabinet. Inside is a fridge. What the hell? Why hide it in a cupboard? There's another, larger fridge on the other end of the room, but that one was empty. This one, however, isn't. Some people would scream. Others would stagger back in shock. Me? I take the bloody hand and inspect it curiously. It's a woman's left hand, intact besides the fact that it's no longer attached to its body. The nails are perfectly manicured, and I admire the red varnish for a moment. Not that I'd ever wear that sort of thing, but I can appreciate it on others. None of the nails are chipped or broken, and there's nothing beneath them. She didn't fight, either because she was surprised, unconscious, dead, or because her hands were bound. She'll be waiting for you. The note is now making more sense. Was she still alive when Winston Kindler, or whoever the message was intended for, was supposed to come to this place? Or was she already dead? I no longer consider this case boring. I have a mutilated hand. It makes me so happy. I found a hand, I cheerily tell Lily as soon as I enter the kitchen. We really need to get the cooling room fixed.
You need to get it fixed.
She scoffs, but then points at my backpack.
Show me.
I take it out and Lily takes it, her face lighting up like I just gave her a birthday present. I make a mental note. It's her birthday in 2 months. And if she likes a hand this much, I might get her one. By then, I'll be back to killing rather than solving murders, and a dead body won't miss his hand. I just need to find out if she prefers male or female hands.
Look what the cat's tracked in.
She mutters under her breath as she examines the hand, turning it around, inspecting it from all angles.
Where did you get it?
Found it in a fridge. She laughs.
See? Other people keep body parts in their fridges too. I'll tell you that next time you admonish me for it.
They don't have a morgue, I snap with a grin. I also found some money, so I'm going to commission the repairs tonight.
Want me to take a look at the hand in the meantime? It looks like it was cut off when the woman was already dead, but I can do some tests to confirm that.
I really want to refuse her offer. How often do I get to play with a body part not attached to a person? But I know I need to do other things first. I sigh. Go ahead and take this powder with you. It needs analyzing. I've also got some random romance novels for you that might have some hidden messages inside. Unless one of our killers likes to read about a widower having a relationship with 2 sisters. I'll join you downstairs in a moment. I need to talk to the cats first and organize the repairs. Is Benjamin back yet? She nods.
He's in his room. Beth is here as well. She's in the living room eating copious amounts of crisps.
I've not seen Beth in days. She does that, disappears without explanation, then comes back with 3 or more marks ticked off the list. Then she takes a week off, relaxing and eating junk food. It's a strange way of working, but as long as she does her job, I don't care. I'll check in on her. Maybe she has some time to help out with this case. Lily snickers.
Beth, help out? You know she's not going to move off that sofa for the next 24 hours at the very least.
I'm sure I can find a way to incentivize her. I scoff. And if it means taking her crisp away. My friend laughs.
Good luck with that. How do you want to be buried? Cremation?
I flip her off and leave the room, heading to the office first. One phone call later, I've arranged for workmen to come and fix the cooling room. They're from a company I've used before, people who know when to speak and when to stay silent. Coupled with a large tip, they won't mention this house having an extensive morgue to anyone. And if they do, well, I do love a vengeful assassination. Just like Lily said, Benjamin is in his room. He's sitting cross-legged on the floor, papers strewn all around him. I stay by the door, not wanting to distract him too much. Find anything? I ask, and he looks up with a small smile. I think so. I've been going through Kinlow's bank statements, and it's quite fascinating. His only source of income should be the earnings he makes with the shop, right? As far as I know, yes. I've not found anything of a second job, and besides, he wouldn't have had the time for that. Benjamin nods. That's what I thought. But he gets a payment into his account every week. Not massive amounts, but they add up to quite a nice sum. Another strange thing is that he never pays his bills in full. Explain, I demand. He takes one of the sheets of papers and hands it to me. That's an invoice for chocolate bars, 723 dirhams, but he never paid that much for it. He points at another letter. He only paid 410 dirhams, and that's just one example. As far as I can see, he never paid in full for sweets. He did, however, pay his electricity and gas bills in full. Same with insurance. Maybe he had a special deal with his supplier? I suggest. Benjamin shakes his head. That would have been on the invoices. It would make sense for tax reasons. And to make it easier, if the supplier doesn't want the full amount, then why not just put it on the invoice that way? No, I think he was getting a discount for something he did, something that nobody wanted to keep a record of. Together with those weekly payments, I think he was corrupt. He accepted money for something he did, something illegal. But what would a sweet shop owner do that would have to be kept secret? I ask, more to myself than to him. His only customers were children, or maybe parents. Not exactly the right customer base. He shrugs. Drugs, maybe? But it's your job to figure that out. I'm just giving you the facts. I sigh. Okay, write down the details of his suppliers, and I'll pay them a visit tomorrow. He rummages around and pulls an envelope from his paper mess. Here's one already. I'll give you the others later on. There are a few more things I want to check. I take the envelope and stare at the address. 17 Marketplace. You must be kidding me.